An Asylum Seeker Guide. Chapter 1. Asylum seekers say they're persecuted people. The legal definition of asylum seeker. Refugees are generally groups of people running from a war zone or a disaster zone like the site of an earthquake, volcano, flooding, etc. They go to refugee camps near the disaster area. People from the United Nations and some immigration officers from some countries set up offices to help these refugees immigrate to another country. Once they're approved, the government and NGOs move these people to the new country with the paperwork in hand already. Asylum seekers are individuals who show up at a country border and say, "I want to apply for asylum." The laws in Canada and the US are generally so liberal that they don't detain the guy or gal in a detention center. They fill out some paperwork and say, "Show up here at this date for the start of your asylum judicial process." At the same time, they help them either through government social services or an NGO/charity who give the person free room and board. On some documentary, I saw a Russian guy leave the US, walk up to the Canadian border and say he wanted to apply for asylum. They filled out some paperwork. Several hours later, he was in his own room at a YMCA relaxing. They have a definition of asylum which comes down to being persecuted. The lawyers stretch that word persecution any way they can. They use religious persecution and homosexual persecution a lot. A guy from Iran just has to say, "I'm a Christian," and claim to be persecuted. You have to have some knowledge of Christianity because they will question you it. A guy from Russia just has to say he's a homosexual, then talk about instances where he was persecuted. The cases I've seen on a TV show, they approved everyone, even the dubious ones, because ultimately they're government employees collecting a paycheck. I suppose they didn't want to look like meanies for the TV cameras either. I think the asylum seeker system is a fraudulent way for people to immigrate to the liberal Western countries. The lawyers and asylum seekers know all the tricks about claiming to be persecuted. They can even plant fake media stories about their clients claiming they're activists who were persecuted by their government. Asylum seekers claim to be fleeing violence, war, or human rights violations. Their legal status is not guaranteed until their application is approved. Asylum seekers have specific rights under international law during the application process in some countries but not all. The definition and process can vary by country, influenced by national laws and international treaties. Asylum seekers are distinct from refugees, as the latter have already been granted protection. They may face legal and procedural challenges while their claims are being processed. Many countries provide temporary protection or humanitarian status while claims are evaluated. The U.S. Code for Asylum Seekers. U.S. Code Title 8 Chapter 12 Subchapter 2 Part I 1158. 8 U.S. Code 1158, Asylum. law.cornell.edu/uscode/text/8/1158. A. Authority to apply for asylum. 1. In general. Any alien who is physically present in the United States or who arrives in the United States, whether or not at a designated port of arrival, and including an alien who is brought to the United States after having been interdicted in international or United States waters, irrespective of such alien status, may apply for asylum in accordance with this section or, where applicable, Section 1225, b, of this title. 2. Exceptions. A. Safe third country. Paragraph 1. Shall not apply to an alien if the Attorney General determines that the alien may be removed, pursuant to a bilateral or multilateral agreement, to a country, other than the country of the alien's nationality or, in the case of an alien having no nationality, the country of the alien's last habitual residence, in which the alien's life or freedom would not be threatened on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion, and where the alien would have access to a full and fair procedure for determining a claim to asylum or equivalent temporary protection, unless the Attorney General finds that it is in the public interest for the alien to receive asylum in the United States. B. Time limit. Subject to subparagraph D, paragraph 1, shall not apply to an alien unless the alien demonstrates by clear and convincing evidence that the application has been filed within 1 year after the date of the alien's arrival in the United States. C. Previous asylum applications. Subject to subparagraph D. Paragraph 1. Shall not apply to an alien if the alien has previously applied for asylum and had such application denied. D. Changed circumstances. An application for asylum of an alien may be considered, notwithstanding subparagraphs B and C, if the alien demonstrates to the satisfaction of the Attorney General either the existence of changed circumstances which materially affect the applicant's eligibility for asylum or extraordinary circumstances relating to the delay in filing an application within the period specified in subparagraph B. E. Applicability. Subparagraphs A and B shall not apply to an unaccompanied alien child, as defined in Section 279 G of Title VI. 3. Limitation on judicial review. No court shall have jurisdiction to review any determination of the Attorney General under paragraph 2. B. Conditions for granting asylum. 1. In general. A. Eligibility. The Secretary of Homeland Security or the Attorney General may grant asylum to an alien who has applied for asylum in accordance with the requirements and procedures established by the Secretary of Homeland Security or the Attorney General under this section if the Secretary of Homeland Security or the Attorney General determines that such alien is a refugee within the meaning of Section 1101, A, 42, A, of this title. B. Burden of proof. I. In general. The burden of proof is on the applicant to establish that the applicant is a refugee, within the meaning of Section 1101, A, 42, A, of this title. To establish that the applicant is a refugee within the meaning of such section, the applicant must establish that race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion was or will be at least one central reason for persecuting the applicant. 2. Sustaining burden. The testimony of the applicant may be sufficient to sustain the applicant's burden without corroboration, but only if the applicant satisfies the trier of fact that the applicant's testimony is credible, is persuasive, and refers to specific facts sufficient to demonstrate that the applicant is a refugee. In determining whether the applicant has met the applicant's burden, the trier of fact may weigh the credible testimony along with other evidence of record. Where the trier of fact determines that the applicant should provide evidence that corroborates otherwise credible testimony, such evidence must be provided unless the applicant does not have the evidence and cannot reasonably obtain the evidence. 3. Credibility determination. Considering the totality of the circumstances, and all relevant factors, a trier of fact may base a credibility determination on the demeanor, candor, or responsiveness of the applicant or witness, the inherent plausibility of the applicant's or witness's account, the consistency between the applicant's or witness's written and oral statements, whenever made and whether or not under oath, and considering the circumstances under which the statements were made, the internal consistency of each such statement, the consistency of such statements with other evidence of record, including the reports of the Department of State on country conditions, and any inaccuracies or falsehoods in such statements, without regard to whether an inconsistency, inaccuracy, or falsehood goes to the heart of the applicant's claim, or any other relevant factor. There is no presumption of credibility, however, if no adverse credibility determination is explicitly made, the applicant or witness shall have a rebuttable presumption of credibility on appeal. 2. Exceptions. A. In general. Paragraph 1. Shall not apply to an alien if the Attorney General determines that I. The alien ordered, incited, assisted, or otherwise participated in the persecution of any person on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. 2. The alien, having been convicted by a final judgment of a particularly serious crime, constitutes a danger to the community of the United States. 3. There are serious reasons for believing that the alien has committed a serious non-political crime outside the United States prior to the arrival of the alien in the United States. 4. there are reasonable grounds for regarding the alien as a danger to the security of the United States. v. The alien is described in subclause I, 2, 3, 4, or 6, of Section 1182, A, 3, B, I, of this title, or Section 1227, A, 4, B, of this title, relating to terrorist activity, unless, in the case only of an alien described in subclause 4, of Section 1182, A, 3, B, I, of this title, the Attorney General determines, in the Attorney General's discretion, that there are not reasonable grounds for regarding the alien as a danger to the security of the United States, or 6. The alien was firmly resettled in another country prior to arriving in the United States. B. Special rules. I. Conviction of aggravated felony. For purposes of Clause 2, of subparagraph A, an alien who has been convicted of an aggravated felony shall be considered to have been convicted of a particularly serious crime. 2. Offenses. The Attorney General may designate by regulation offenses that will be considered to be a crime described in Clause 2, or 3, of subparagraph A. C. Additional limitations. The Attorney General may by regulation establish additional limitations and conditions, consistent with this section, under which an alien shall be ineligible for asylum under paragraph 1. D. No judicial review. There shall be no judicial review of a determination of the Attorney General under subparagraph A, v. 3. Treatment of spouse and children. A. In general, a spouse or child, as defined in Section 1101, B, 1, A, B, C, D, or E, of this title, of an alien who is granted asylum under this subsection may, if not otherwise eligible for asylum under this section, be granted the same status as the alien if accompanying, or following to join, such alien. B. Continued classification of certain aliens as children. An unmarried alien who seeks to accompany, or follow to join, a parent granted asylum under this subsection, and who was under 21 years of age on the date on which such parent applied for asylum under this section, shall continue to be classified as a child for purposes of this paragraph and Section 1159, b. 3, of this title, if the alien attained 21 years of age after such application was filed but while it was pending. C. Initial jurisdiction. An asylum officer, as defined in Section 1225, b. 1, e, of this title, shall have initial jurisdiction over any asylum application filed by an unaccompanied alien child, as defined in Section 279, g, of Title VI, regardless of whether filed in accordance with this section or Section 1225, b, of this title. C. Asylum status. 1. In general. In the case of an alien granted asylum under subsection b, the Attorney General A. shall not remove or return the alien to the alien's country of nationality or, in the case of a person having no nationality, the country of the alien's last habitual residence. B. Shall authorize the alien to engage in employment in the United States and provide the alien with appropriate endorsement of that authorization, and C. May allow the alien to travel abroad with the prior consent of the Attorney General. 2. Termination of asylum. Asylum granted under subsection b does not convey a right to remain permanently in the United States, and may be terminated if the Attorney General determines that a. the alien no longer meets the conditions described in subsection b. 1, owing to a fundamental change in circumstances. b. the alien meets a condition described in subsection b. 2. c. the alien may be removed, pursuant to a bilateral or multilateral agreement, to a country, other than the country of the alien's nationality or, in the case of an alien having no nationality, the country of the alien's last habitual residence, in which the alien's life or freedom would not be threatened on account of race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion, and where the alien is eligible to receive asylum or equivalent temporary protection. d. The alien has voluntarily availed himself or herself of the protection of the alien's country of nationality or, in the case of an alien having no nationality, the alien's country of last habitual residence, by returning to such country with permanent resident status or the reasonable possibility of obtaining such status with the same rights and obligations pertaining to other permanent residents of that country, or e. The alien has acquired a new nationality and enjoys the protection of the country of his or her new nationality. 3. Removal when asylum is terminated. An alien described in paragraph 2 is subject to any applicable grounds of inadmissibility or deportability under section 11182a and 1227a of this title, and the alien's removal or return shall be directed by the Attorney General in accordance with sections 1229a and 1231 of this title. D. Asylum procedure. 1. Applications. The Attorney General shall establish a procedure for the consideration of asylum applications filed under subsection A. The Attorney General may require applicants to submit fingerprints and a photograph at such time and in such manner to be determined by regulation by the Attorney General. 2. Employment. An applicant for asylum is not entitled to employment authorization, but such authorization may be provided under regulation by the Attorney General. An applicant who is not otherwise eligible for employment authorization shall not be granted such authorization prior to 180 days after the date of filing of the application for asylum. 3. Fees. The Attorney General may impose fees for the consideration of an application for asylum, for employment authorization under this section, and for adjustment of status under section 1159b of this title. Such fees shall not exceed the Attorney General's costs in adjudicating the applications. The Attorney General may provide for the assessment and payment of such fees over a period of time or by installments. Nothing in this paragraph shall be construed to require the Attorney General to charge fees for adjudication services provided to asylum applicants, or to limit the authority of the Attorney General to set adjudication and naturalization fees in accordance with Section 1356 m. of this title. 4. Notice of privilege of counsel and consequences of frivolous application. At the time of filing an application for asylum, the Attorney General shall a. advise the alien of the privilege of being represented by counsel and of the consequences, under paragraph 6, of knowingly filing a frivolous application for asylum, and b. provide the alien a list of persons, updated not less often than quarterly, who have indicated their availability to represent aliens in asylum proceedings on a pro bono basis. 5. Consideration of asylum applications. A. Procedures. The procedure established under paragraph 1 shall provide that I. Asylum cannot be granted until the identity of the applicant has been checked against all appropriate records or databases maintained by the Attorney General and by the Secretary of State, including the automated visa lookout system, to determine any grounds on which the alien may be inadmissible to or deportable from the United States, or ineligible to apply for or be granted asylum. 2. In the absence of exceptional circumstances, the initial interview or hearing on the asylum application shall commence not later than 45 days after the date an application is filed. 3. In the absence of exceptional circumstances, final administrative adjudication of the asylum application, not including administrative appeal, shall be completed within 180 days after the date an application is filed. 4. Any administrative appeal shall be filed within 30 days of a decision granting or denying asylum, or within 30 days of the completion of removal proceedings before an immigration judge under Section 1229A of this title, whichever is later, and v. In the case of an applicant for asylum who fails without prior authorization or in the absence of exceptional circumstances to appear for an interview or hearing, including a hearing under Section 1229A of this title, the application may be dismissed or the applicant may be otherwise sanctioned for such failure. b. Additional regulatory conditions. The Attorney General may provide by regulation for any other conditions or limitations on the consideration of an application for asylum not inconsistent with this chapter. 6. Frivolous applications. If the Attorney General determines that an alien has knowingly made a frivolous application for asylum and the alien has received the notice under paragraph 4a, the alien shall be permanently ineligible for any benefits under this chapter, effective as of the date of a final determination on such application. 7. No private right of action. Nothing in this subsection shall be construed to create any substantive or procedural right or benefit that is legally enforceable by any party against the United States or its agencies or officers or any other person. E. Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. The provisions of this section and Section 1159, b, of this title shall apply to persons physically present in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands or arriving in the Commonwealth, whether or not at a designated port of arrival, and including persons who are brought to the Commonwealth after having been interdicted in international or United States waters, only on or after January 1, 2014. Chapter 2. Asylum Seeker Organizations. Asylum Seeker Organizations 1. UnitedWeDream.org. United We Dream. GlobalCitizen.org. ImmigrationAdvocates.org. Immigration Advocates Network. Impactful.Ninja. ACLU.org. Immigrants' Rights. American Civil Liberties Union. Asylum Seeker Organizations 2. ABBA Center on Children and the Law. 1050 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. Suite 400. Washington District of Columbia 20036. 202-662-1720. Fax, 202-662-1755. AmericanBar.org/groups/child_law.html. Facebook.com/American Bar Association. Twitter. Twitter.com/AbbasQ. American Immigration Council. 1331 G Street, NW. Suite 200. Washington District of Columbia 20005-3141. 202-507-7500. Fax, 202-742-5619. AmericanImmigrationCouncil.org. Facebook.com/AmericanImmigration Twitter. Twitter.com/$21/IMM Council. YouTube. YouTube.com/user/Immigration Council. Bridging Refugee Youth and Children's Services. United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, USCB. 3211 4th Street Northeast. Washington District of Columbia 20017. 888-572-6500. info@bryces.org. bryces.org. Facebook.com/pages/bridging-refugee-youth-services-bryces-141339939221088. Twitter. Twitter.com/brycesinfo. Center for Advanced Studies in Child Welfare. University of Minnesota School of Social Work. 205 Peters Hall, 1404 Gortner Avenue. St. Paul, Minnesota 55108. 612-624-4231. CACW@umn.edu. CACW.umn.edu. Chapin Hall Center for Children. 1313 East 60th Street. Chicago, Illinois 60637. 773-753-5900. Fax, 773-753-5940. Webmaster@chapinhall.org. chapinhall.org. First Focus. 1110 Vermont Avenue, NW. Suite 900. Washington, District of Columbia 2005. 202-657-0670. Fax, 202-657-0671. firstfocus.net. Facebook.com/firstfocus.children. Immigrant Legal Resource Center. 1663 Mission Street, Suite 602, San Francisco, California 94103, 415-255-9499. Fax, 415-255-9792. ilrc.org. Facebook.com/Immigrant Legal Resource Center. Twitter. Twitter.com/ILRC_SF. Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services. Headquarters. 700 Light Street, Baltimore, Maryland 21230. 410-230-2700. Fax, 410-230-2890. Communications@lirs.org. lirs.org. Facebook.com/liarsorg. Twitter.com/@liarsorg. YouTube. YouTube.com/Lutheran Immigration. Migration and Refugee Services. United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. 3211 4th Street NE. Washington, District of Columbia 20017. 202-541-3352. mrs@usccb.org. old.usccb.org/mrs. National Center for Refugee and Immigrant Children. U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, USCRI. 2231 Crystal Drive, Suite 350. Arlington, Virginia 22202-3711. 703-310-1130. Fax, 703-769-4241. Refugees.org/explore-the-issues/r-work-with-unaccompanied-migrating-children. Facebook.com/USCRI?ref=MF. Twitter.com/USCRIDC. National Center on Immigration Integration Policy. Migration Policy Institute. 1400 16th Street Northwest, Suite 300. Washington, District of Columbia 20036. 202-266-1940. Fax, 202-266-1900. migrationinformation.org/integration. National Council for Adoption. 225 North Washington Street, Alexandria, Virginia 22314-2561. 703-299-6633. ncfa@adoptioncouncil.org. adoptioncouncil.org. Facebook.com/adoptioncouncil. Twitter.com/adoptioncouncil. National Immigrant Justice Center. 208 South LaSalle Street, Suite 1818. Chicago, Illinois 60604. NIJC@heartlandalliance.org. immigrantjustice.org. Facebook.com/immigrantjustice. Twitter.com/NIJC. YouTube. youtube.com/immigrantjustice. National Resource Center for In-Home Services. University of Iowa School of Social Work. 100 MTP4, Room 162. Iowa City, Iowa 52242-500. 319-335-4932. Lisa-Donno@uiowa.edu. uiowa.edu/nrcihs. Office of Refugee Resettlement. Administration for Children and Families, ACF. 901 D Street, SW, or/8th floor. Washington, District of Columbia 20447. acf.hhs.gov/programs/ORR. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Information and Customer Service Division, MS 2260. 111 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest. Washington, District of Columbia 20529-2260. 800-375-5283. 877-247-5000. 4645. TDD, 800-767-1833. uscis.gov/portal/site/uscis. facebook.com/uscis. twitter.com/uscis. YouTube. youtube.com/uscis. U.S. Department of State. 2201 C Street, NW. SA 17, 9th floor. Washington District of Columbia 20522-1709. 888-407-4747. Adoption@state.gov. travel.state.gov/content/travel/en/intercountry-adoption/adoption-process.html. Urban Institute. 2100 M Street, NW. Washington District of Columbia 20037. 202-833-7200. 202-261-5709. 877-847-7877. paffairs@ui.urban.org. urban.org. facebook.com/urbaninstitute. twitter.com/urbaninstitute. Vera Institute of Justice. 1100 1st St. Northeast. Suite 950. Washington District of Columbia 20002. 202-465-8900. 213-223-2442. 504-593-0937. 212-334-1300. vera.org. facebook.com/Vera Institute. twitter.com/Vera Institute. YouTube. youtube.com/user/Vera INST. Women's Refugee Commission. 122 East 42nd Street. New York, New York 10168-128. 202-822-0166. 212-551-3115. Fax, 202-822-0089. Fax, 212-551-3180. info@wrcommission.org. womensrefugeecommission.org. facebook.com/wrcommission. twitter.com/wrcommission. YouTube. youtube.com/wrcommission. Young Center for Immigrant Children's Rights, the University of Chicago. 6020 South University Avenue. Chicago, Illinois 60637. 773-702-9560. info@theyoungcenter.org. theyoungcenter.org/index.html. facebook.com/theyoungcenter. twitter.com/theyoungcenter. Asylum, Refugee and Immigration DC Area Nonprofit Organizations. African Immigrant and Refugee Foundation. 301-593-0241. airfound.org. 11350 Baroque Road, Silver Spring, Maryland 20901. AUDA. AUDA.com, 202-387-4848. 6925 B Willow Street, NWDC 20012. Capital Area Immigration Rights, CARE Coalition. carecoalition.org. 1612 K Street, NWDC 20006, Suite 204. Central American Resource Center of Washington, D.C., Carison. 202-328-9799. caresendc.org. 1460 Columbia Road, Northwest Washington, D.C. Education for Peace in Iraq, EPIC. enablingpeace.org. epic-usa.org. 1140 3rd St. Northeast 2nd floor, Washington, D.C. 20002. Ethiopian Community Development Council, Inc. ECDC. 703-685-0510. ecdcuz.org. 901 South Highland Street, Arlington, Virginia 22204. Immigration and Refugee Services of America, IRSA. 202-797-2105. irsa-uscr.org. ref4uugeesusa.org. 1717 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest Suite 200 Washington, D.C. 20036. International Rescue Committee, IRC. 301-562-8633. Rescue.org. rescue.org/volunteer-opportunities/silver-spring-md. 8719 Colesville Road 3rd floor, Silver Spring, Maryland 20910. Institute for East African Councils on Higher Education, IEA Councils. 202-997-6684. IEACouncils.org. 3636 16th Street NW Washington, D.C. 20010. Lutheran Social Services Refugee Resettlement and Placement. 202-723-3000. lssnca.org. 4406 Georgia Avenue Northwest Washington, D.C. 20011. Mary House. 202-780-5137. maryhouse.org. Refugee Alliance Network, RAN. 702-752-8809. Facebook.com/ARAGRCI. Field Office, C/ORRUU Congregation 6301 River Road, Bethesda, Maryland 20817-5825. Main Office, 2822 Georgia Avenue Northwest Washington, D.C. 20001. Refugees International. 202-828-0110. RefugeesInternational.org. 1800 M Street, NW Suite 405N Washington, D.C. 20036. Women for Women International. 202-737-7705. WomenForWomen.org. 2000 M Street NW, Suite 200, Washington, D.C. 20036. Chapter 3. Asylum Seeker Websites. Asylum Seeker Websites 1. ACLU.org, American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU. ACLU.org/immigrants-rights-immigration. ADL.org, Anti-Defamation League. Amnesty.org, Amnesty International. avalon.law.edu/subject_menus/diana.asp, International Human Rights Database. cwis.org/chief-george-memorial-indigenous-library/search, Center for World Indigenous Studies Library. hdr.undp.org/n, UNDP Human Development Reports. hrw.org, Human Rights Watch. humanrightsfirst.org, Human Rights First. physiciansforhumanrights.org, Physicians for Human Rights. sblcenter.org, Southern Poverty Law Center. unhcr.org, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR. vera.org, Vera Institute of Justice. freedomhouse.org, Freedom House Country Reports. state.gov/international-religious-freedom-reports, DOS reports on international religious freedom. state.gov/reports-bureau-of-human-rights-labor/country-reports-on-human-rights-practices, DOS country reports on human rights practices. reflaw.org, University of Michigan Refugee Case Law Search. refworld.org, RefWorld, the leader in refugee decision support. cgrs.uchastings.edu, UC. Hastings Center for Gender and Refugee Studies. acf.hhs.gov/program/or, Office of Refugee Resettlement. Asylum seeker websites 2. arcrelief.org, ardc-israel.org, exodusrefugee.org, facebook.com/help Syrian refugees in Jordan, icirr.org, irisct.org, jazzbuffalo.org, mnchurches.org/refugeeservices, openmindprojects.org, redcross.org.uk, refugee-action.org.uk, refugeecouncil.org.au, refugeecouncil.org.uk, refugeeone.org, reliefandreconciliation.org, rescue.org, rua.org, thaforrefugees.org, TucsonRefugeeMinistry.com, worldrelief.org, worldreliefjacksonville.org, worldreliefseattle.org, worldreliefspokane.org. Asylum seeker websites at blogs.feedspot.com/asylum_blogs, aberking.com/blog, americanimmigrationcouncil.org/topics/asylum, asylproject.eu/blogs, asrc.org.au/blog, asylum-welcome.org/category/blog, asylumadvocacy.org, asylumist.com, asylummagazine.org/blog, cis.org/immigration-topic/asylum, EU-migration-law-blog.eu, European-law-blog.eu/category/asylum-law, freemovement.org.uk, hias.org/latest, migration-and-asylum-project.org/blog, migrationwatchhook.org/news/category/asylum, pewresearch.org/topics/immigration-migration-issues/refugees-asylum-seekers, refugee-action.org.uk/about/blog, refugeecouncil.org.uk/latest/news, refugeesintpro.wpengine.com/the-latest, rli.blogs.sas.ac.uk, thinkimmigration.org/blog/category/topics/asylum-protection. A list of humanitarian websites at blog.feedspot.com/humanitarian_blogs, alnap.org/blogs, Australian Humanitarian Partnership.org/new-blog, devonit.org/blog/topic=humanitarian-assistance_1, ec.europa.eu/echo/field-blogs_n, egiltalk.org/category/international-humanitarian-law, feedspot.com/media-contact-data-base?@_src=@_blog, hhr.hypotheses.org, hotosm.org, humanicontrarian.com, latterdaysaintcharities.org/blog, msf-crash.org/en/blog, rand.org/blog.html, redar.org.uk/blog, reliefweb.in/blog, theneuhumanitarian.org, unfoundation.org/blog, worldvision.org/news-stories, zakat.unhcr.org/blog/en.